Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Terrell.
And my name is Brendan.
We're
BNT Reacts. And today we are checking out 3 disturbing true Halloween horror stories, parentheses, volume 2. And this is by Chilling Scares.
It is spooky season, people. So we're gonna be checking out some spooky content like we said. 3 disturbing. It's always, and like when I hear horror stories, it's like, okay, a lot of times I'm not scared by a lot of horror things, like horror movies, films, TV shows. It's the shit when they say, I don't know why, but when they say it's true, that's the shit that scares me. Because it's like, oh, especially like when that motherfucker is true and they still ain't find out who did it. The person just still out and about.
Yeah.
I'd be scared as shit. I'd be like, hell no, lock the doors and everything. Fuck no. We gonna get into the reaction. Let's go, y'all. Okay.
Are these real stories?
Yeah, it's true.
Halloween of 2008. I was 14 years old and remember being especially excited for that year's Halloween. It fell on a Friday, meaning we could stay out later than usual. I was gonna go trick-or-treating with my friend Matthew, after which we would go back to my house for a sleepover. I lived with my dad, who worked night shifts as a security guard. He was gonna be gone pretty much from sundown to sunup, leaving Matthew and I to do our own thing. Matthew showed up at about 7 p.m., to which we quickly threw on some cheap costumes and headed out. Trick-or-treating in our neighborhood was always the worst. We lived in this foresty area where the houses were really spread out. We probably walked a good quarter mile between each door. But at the same time, I think the homeowners kind of realized this, as they would typically hand out larger amounts of candy to make up for it. Of course, we'd see other trick-or-treaters as we walked between houses, but not as many as you'd think. There weren't all too many kids living in the area. We had been trick-or-treating for about 2 hours when I noticed someone following us.
Oh.
It was either a grown man or a really tall kid, I couldn't tell. He had a Michael Myers mask covering his face.
Hell no.
Pass.
At
For me,
first, I thought he was just trick-or-treating like everyone else, but he didn't have a bag to hold candy. And it was just him. It wasn't like he was with his kid or anything. I told Matthew about it, but he wanted to keep going. He reassured me that if the guy kept following us, we could go back. So we continued hitting houses. But the guy did continue to follow us. Something I picked up on pretty quick is that he wasn't even walking up to the house's front doors to get candy. He stayed behind us. Again, I told Matthew. This time I could tell he was a bit more on edge. Coming up was a shortcut through the woods, which led directly to my house. We took it, sprinting as soon as we entered the woods.
Don't go in the woods.
We had no idea if we were followed, but either way, we immediately started locking all the doors and windows. I remember I was upstairs locking my bedroom window when I heard yelling from back downstairs.
Oh.
It was Matthew. I ran down to him. He was standing next to the living room window. I asked him what was wrong. He didn't say anything. Instead, he pointed outside the window. I followed his finger, squinting as my eyes adjusted to the darkness. All I could see were trees. I looked back at Matthew. What? He told me the guy in the Michael Myers mask was standing out there. Now I just thought he was trying to scare me. But when I looked back, I actually saw him.
Oh.
He was deep in the forest, halfway covered by one of the trees, just standing there motionless. I went to the kitchen to grab the phone. I called my dad as I walked back to the window. When he picked up, I told him that there was a stranger outside in a Michael Myers mask. Well, what is he doing? As I was looking out the window, I told him that he was just standing there, watching the house. Look, it's probably just some teenager trying to scare you. Just make sure all the doors are locked and ignore him. That was not the response I was hoping for, but I thought maybe he was right. Matthew and I went upstairs to my room and did our best to forget about it. But, of course, it was pretty much all we could think about.
Yeah.
We started trying to come up with reasonable explanations. This was interrupted by the sound of glass shattering from downstairs. My heart started racing. Neither of us knew what to do. The phone was back downstairs.
Oh,
shit. Turned off the light and got into the closet. We shuffled to the way back, hiding behind hanging clothes, out of view. The next 5 minutes were completely silent. Then, footsteps entering the room.
Hell
They started walking around. My heart was racing. That's when the closet door slowly opened.
You got to pull a Laurie Strode.
A full minute had to have passed of just nothing. Until, breaking the silence, was Matthew screaming. He was yanked out of the closet from right next to me. I stepped out. It was the guy in the Michael Myers mask, now with a knife.
I would.
Matthew was being wrestled to the ground, but in the struggle, the guy dropped his knife. In a matter of seconds, Matthew was pinned down. I grabbed the knife and immediately stuck it in the back of the guy's thigh. He fell on his side, screaming in pain. Matthew got up and we started running downstairs. We went outside and sprinted to my neighbor's house. When we got there, we banged on the door until they answered. We explained our situation and they let us inside as they called the cops. To make a long story short, the cops didn't find the guy. He was missing from the house when they arrived.
There had to be blood.
There was nothing to show for the encounter but a broken window and a missing kitchen knife.
There had to be
I
blood.
looked for a blood trail, but never found one. I received no injuries, but Matthew wasn't as lucky. As he was struggling with the guy, he received a cut down his arm. Even today, I still think about that night.
Hell no, I would have moved immediately. Hell no.
I would have called the cops as soon as I saw him out the window. I don't know if they would have believed me.
When I
But
was 19, I lived at home with my parents. This happened on Halloween, and like every other year, my parents had me hand out candy to the kids that came by. I didn't mind. Our living room was right next to the front door, so I just put on a movie and get up whenever the doorbell rang. It was about 10 p.m. The doorbell rings were slowing down. By this point, both of my parents had gone to bed. I remember this almost perfectly. I was on the last scene of The Dark Knight when our home phone rang. I looked over to the left where the phone sat. Unknown caller, that's all it said. Now, literally just the other day, we had gotten a new set of phones. We were given a new number and hadn't given it out to anyone yet, so I doubted it was someone I knew.
Why are you... Okay, this is the pro tip to everybody. If you don't know the number, if the number says unknown, do not answer the fucking phone. You don't know who calling you. If I don't recognize your number and I don't expect nobody, if I'm not expecting anyone to call me for anything, I'm not answering. If it's that important, leave me a fucking voicemail and then I don't know who you are. If it's not that important, I'm not, no.
But I still thought I'd
Don't
answer
do
it
that
just in
shit.
case. I picked it up. Hello? All I could hear was heavy breathing, so I hung up. I figured
Hung up
they had
and
the
blocked.
wrong number. Shortly after, the phone went off again. It said the same thing, unknown caller. I picked it up again.
why would you pick it up
Who
again?
is this? This time, a male voice replied. I know where you live. I hung up again. I stopped to think for a second. I was starting to realize that it was probably just someone trying to prank call me. I mean, it was Halloween night. I can't even blame them. But at the same time, that's something you'd expect from a kid, or at the very most, a teenager. And from what it sounded like, whoever was on the other end of that line was much older than a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of the next 10 minutes, 6 or 7 more phone calls came in. Finally, I picked up again. This time, I didn't say anything. There were a few seconds of silence before the man started talking. I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly what was said, but it was something like how the guy was outside our house and that I needed to unlock the back door so we could get in. He said if we called the cops, he was going to kill everyone inside before they could arrive. After that, the line went dead. I was basically fully convinced by this point that this wasn't a prank call. I went to the kitchen, crawling on all fours to stay under the view of any windows. I grabbed the largest knife I could find. With knife in hand, I crawled to my parents' room and shook awake my dad. I whispered to him that someone was outside near the back door. He immediately got out of bed and grabbed his loaded revolver.
Period.
Okay.
Bitch, you getting
Got to the
shot.
house. I better explain the situation. I told him about all the phone calls. When we got to the back door, he unlocked it and stepped outside with no hesitation. He shot one bullet into the air, and right as he did, 3 men popped out from a set of bushes right up against the house and started sprinting away. They ran straight into the forest our house was backed up to. My dad chased them for a bit, but they were much faster than him.
Why are you chasing
They
them?
disappeared into the trees. We never saw them again. We have no idea who they were. We called and told police, but there was nothing they could do. We still don't know how they got our phone number or what they wanted. This happened last year on Halloween. I was 18 at the time, and my best friend Michael was 17. We both knew we were too old for trick-or-treating, but we also knew that handing out candy wouldn't be any fun. That's when Michael came up with an idea. There was this old abandoned house that was close to mine that we'd always said we'd explore at some point. We figured, what better night than Halloween?
What?
We waited until it got dark, and then waited even more until there were much less trick-or-treaters outside. That's when we grabbed a couple
Y'all set
flashlights.
yourselves up already.
Literally.
I ain't even hear the story
It took
already
us a
now.
few minutes, but eventually we got to the house. Of course, since it was abandoned, it was a huge mess. Trash was scattered across the floor, windows were boarded up. You get the picture. We walked up to the front door. I was half expecting it to be locked, but it opened. Inside was pitch black. We stepped inside. Our flashlights didn't light up much, so we did the best we could in looking around. The house had 2 floors. We explored everything on the bottom and didn't find anything interesting, so we went upstairs. Up there, we immediately saw 2 rooms. Michael went in the one on the right, and I went in the one on the left.
Why would you split up?
I started exploring it, looking in drawers, in the closet, still nothing of interest. I remember I was looking out the window when blood-curdling screams shot out from the other room. It was Michael. I ran over to the room he was in. Initially, I didn't see anything. That was until I put my flashlight in the back left corner. There was Michael, but he had an arm around his neck. Someone wearing all black with a Halloween mask had Michael in a chokehold. I could tell his face was turning red, so I did the only thing I could think of. I threw my flashlight as hard as I could at the person. I managed to strike him in the side. He let go of Michael and shouted out in pain, holding his side. Now with no light, we ran downstairs. We managed to stumble out of the house in the dark. When we got out, we ran, but not before looking back. Lit only by the moonlight, we saw 3 figures standing in the upstairs window looking down at us, all of them wearing that same Halloween mask. We turned back around and ran even faster. We finally stopped when we made it back to my driveway. I bent over, breathing heavily. Neither of us knew what to think or do. We had no idea what we just came across. Later that night, Michael told me what happened when he entered that room. He got in there and started exploring it like every other room. After a while, he noticed something in the corner. He shined his flashlight at it and saw that it was a Halloween mask. He walked over to it, thinking it was propped up against the wall. It slightly moved, and that's when he realized it was a person. He screamed out, but was quickly put in a chokehold. That's when I came in. What disturbs me most is how Michael described being held. He said that whoever was in the mask had to have been using all their force on his neck. He wasn't just being restrained. He genuinely couldn't breathe for the good 20 seconds or so that he was held there. Like I said before, we don't know what we came across. We don't know what those guys were doing, but we both agree it wasn't something we were supposed to see. I truly believe we were almost killed that night.
And then I'm sorry, that's on y'all.
Yeah,
that's on y'all. Mm-hmm. The other 2 stories, what was the first story again? It was
the first story was the Michael Myers, the kids with the
the kids, and then the person coming to the house. The second story, okay, that's not necessarily on them. There are parts, okay, like all these stories, honestly, could be avoided except for the first one. The first one is like they're kids, so they're trick or treating. Like you don't expect someone to be fucking following you. Like that's just weird shit. So they did the right thing. The second story, same. It's parts of it that could have been avoided. Honestly, if Hank answered the phone, I'm sure they would have just stopped. Like me, I wouldn't have answered the phone. They would have kept calling. I would have just blocked, and they would have fucking went away. But also, you never know. They could have actually came in the house and tried to do some shit. So parts of it is like, well, he did answer the phone for a reason, and then he shouldn't answer the phone. So that's kind of balanced. The last one, it's just y'all fault.
Y'all chose.
Like y'all actively were like, okay, we're gonna make this plan to go to this on this day at this time, and like no, that was on y'all because what the fuck? No. What did you think?
Yeah, I would agree with what you said. Like, the last one, your fault. The second one, you did have to answer the phone, but they were still there. But I think the first one was the scariest to me. Maybe because, especially in my youth, if someone was stalking me with a Michael Myers mask, I would have been terrified.
Yeah.
I still don't really, like, Michael Myers, like, still freaks me out sometimes, like, if it's, like, real late at night, but, and, like, my parents aren't home, oh my god. And then, like, he came in the house, oh, no. That one literally, like, was the scariest one for me, because that one just, like, is so, like, it was, like, the most, like, like, they didn't really do anything. Like, they literally just got stalked, like, you know. But these were all, I think they got, like, less scary as, like, they could have avoided things, you know. But it was still very entertaining. And it did get me in the Halloween mood for spooky season.
Yes.
But it was good.
Yeah, but alright, that's all for this reaction. If you like it, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you also hit the subscribe button. And go ahead and comment down below what you thought about this reaction. If you want us to do more Halloween content like this one. Shout out also to Chillin' Scares for the amazing storytelling and amazing visuals and narration, everything. Shout out to you for that.
And make sure to follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Follow both of our separate channels. Follow our second channel, and make sure to check out our Discord.
Yeah, we have a second channel now. It's called BNT Reacts 2. Make sure y'all go subscribe to that. We're going to be doing K-pop reactions like we did in the beginning of this channel. We're also going to be doing TV show reactions over there as well. I think we're gonna start up again with the last Airbender Avatar, because we started that, but we didn't even get nowhere to finish that. So we're gonna start back up with that one again. So make sure y'all go check out that second channel. Again, BNT Reacts 2. But alright, y'all, that's all this reaction, and we're out. Bye.
Bye.